Welcome to Harmonium LA, the podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Heedy Gandolfi, emotional wellness expert, founder of Harmonium LA, and published author. The world needs healing now more than ever. My goal is to bring you inspiring conversations, tips, and techniques that will help you build a sustainable healing toolkit. The Harmonium LA podcast is the only resource you will need to slow down, stop searching, and start healing. Welcome back to another episode of Stop Searching and Start Healing. So today's guest is truly a phenomenal human being. He's one of the most humble guys that I have ever had the pleasure and the honor to meet. By his own admission, he is just a guy leading a mission to bring unity and connection to people across the globe. He has created a mindfulness tool, which we're going to be discussing in depth today, which has been endorsed by the likes of Deepak Chopra and many others. It is a tool which is used across the globe in schools with veterans to really help to bring healing and reduce the levels of stress and anxiety, and to help connect us back to our heart space and to love. So it's an absolute honor to have him on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and then we will bring him in and let him do the talking. Sigmar Berg is an entrepreneur, artist, photographer, and fashion designer, best known for the Love Tuner, a mindfulness tool that seeks to bring personal healing to the user via the 528 hertz frequency, also known as the love frequency. So close to my heart. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Sigmar to the show.
Let's see.
Sigmar,
Is this okay?
This is great. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here. It's an absolute honor and a real pleasure. And I know it's going to be an absolute treat for all of our listeners to hear our conversation today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for having me. We
Absolutely.
talked about it for a while, and I'm really stoked to be on the show.
Yeah, we really have. And it's interesting because we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours who said, you know, you guys should meet because you have so many similarities, you have so much in common. You know, not only did we both make our way across from Europe via traveling the world and landing up here in LA, you know, but just with the work that we're doing in the world, you know, this mission that we're on to create a platform for healing and to really look to change the world collectively from how it has been to where it really needs to move to. So I'm really excited to have you here to talk about that today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be here. And, you know, as you said, I mean, our backgrounds are very similar. Two Europeans in Los Angeles and coming from different fields, different backgrounds, and then, you know, like bringing well-being and, you know, the spiritual hygiene and spreading it.
Absolutely. And I love that. Spiritual hygiene is so important, and just people don't practice it enough. So the more we can raise awareness to it, the more we can bring people into realizing that that is such a key part of healing and well-being, then the better. So obviously we are here to discuss the Love Tuner today, but before we start with that, why don't we just tune in? Because I think that's essential.
Good idea. Yeah, let's do it.
People to see and hear before we start talking. So I have my Love Tuner.
Let's tune and connect in the frequency.
Amazing. So for people that are listening or watching and thinking, what on earth are they doing? Why don't you just talk to us about exactly what this is?
So basically, it's a mindfulness tool. It's calibrated to 528 hertz. It's a single tone flute, and the 528 hertz is understood to be the divine frequency, the love frequency, DNA repair frequency. And I think this is where our healing modalities overlap. So what it basically does, you do a breathing break, and this breathing break basically disconnects the parasympathicus from the sympathetic nervous system. So you get out of your fight and flight mode, you relax, you breathe, and the frequency when it hits our body, so this little thing gives a frequency as an instrument, and when you blow it, it aligns the water molecules in your body and gives you the feeling of relaxation. And then on a spiritual level, you invite love in your life because you are connecting to the love frequency. And it's a very fast and instant process. So you don't have to have any education in transcendental meditation. So you actually force yourself to a conscious breathing break. You invite love in your life, and that's it. So it's a very simple tool.
It's a very simple tool, but it's so powerful. And I think for all of those things that you've just said, because it's not only just working on a superficial level, but it's working on a really cellular level as well, to be able to affect the molecules within our body. And that frequency, like you say, is this love frequency. And I'm guessing that a lot of people don't even realize that that exists. I mean, how did you come across this? How did you even begin to put all of this together into just this tiny, but yet really powerful tool?
So I was introduced to the frequency from a friend of mine who was working on this product, and I had a breathing meditation, and we played this frequency, and this was like whatever, a couple of years back. I was already in transcendental meditation for a while, and I think I was sufficient, and I did it twice a day. And when I the first time was introduced to the frequency, it was such a powerful meditation that it was kind of, yeah, I had no clue about frequency. I didn't even know that 528 hertz is something powerful. And when I discovered then along the way what it really does is, there was one thing what resonated with me right away, and this is the hidden messages in water from Emoto, this Japanese scientist that actually traveled around the world, and he was freezing water, looked at it under the microscope, and he actually proved that whatever you say to water, whatever you do to water, affects the molecular structure. So, for example, polluted water gets amorph. When water is a crystal clear mountain spring, it has a hexagonal crystal form. And when you play this frequency onto water, even when it's amorph and lost the shape, it goes back into this original crystal form. So when you transform this reaction of water to our body, we are like, what, about a little bit under 70% water when we are adults. Our blood is 91% water. So obviously this showed that it works. And then we did a lot of tests, and then slowly I grew actually. So it was actually learning by doing, because I saw it. We started with kids in schools, because this was the biggest feedback for us, because kids, they have no interest, they have no layers. It's not when you give them a tool, they would not say out of being polite, oh, this is great. So they, like adults, sometimes when they don't feel something, they would say, just to be polite, oh, this was really affecting me and it was really positive. Kids, they lose interest. They try it, they drop it, and they're not working. And we had like amazing success with schools. And this was where I started like more and more researching, more and more discovering how powerful this tool is. And in the first two seasons where we introduced it into mainly elementary schools, we eliminated completely bullying. The grades went up, and it started like a unifying field. So there was more teamwork. They understood each other better. So kids who have not been friends before, they have not been the best friends, but at least they had an understanding and a respect towards each other. And then going further into this journey, I started working with veterans through our foundations. And it's a very simple process, what you basically do, because we humans are only separated because of the polarity, like whatever it is, I might meet someone and the person would think, what is this idiot with his hat on? And I would think, what is this person? So we have like all those layers, but what is really happening is, this is something what is in our mind, and our hearts are completely curious. So our hearts, they want to connect, there's no race, there's no political views. It's just like heart to heart, we are one, we are connected. And what the love basically does in a very short amount of time is it takes you out of your head into your heart. So this is like, for a lot of people, it's overwhelming, because what we do, we close our heart and we play everything in our mind, and our world is perfect. So when you start tuning, what often people experience is they feel it right away, but then they get kind of a heaviness, because everything what they swallow down, what they don't want to look at, comes up.
Mhm.
So we work with healers that are able to see like chakras, and they told me when they see humans tuning, all the chakras align. So you can literally see it in a person. I mean, I'm not able to, I'm not a healer. I'm just like, curious about this frequency. Yeah, to a certain degree, but the love tuner does my healing. But it's so I when I understood all those factors, it just was clear that I have to distribute it and make it available for everyone. And it's so simple because it helps you instantly, because first of all, through the breathing break. So nobody breathes. I mean, you are educated in spirituality, you do yoga, you do a lot of stuff. So you know how important our breathing is. And but nobody else, or when you say now the average person, is not aware of it. So we run through our day and we are shallow breathers, and we don't even have a tool, or we don't have a modality to release it. So with the tuner, you sit in cars, especially here in Los Angeles, you have a lot of traffic. And I do it myself if I'm not on the phone and I have like a couple of minutes. This is the first thing what I do. I take my tuner out, and I mean, obviously you cannot close your eyes when you're driving, but just the effect of breathing is like activating your key of life. You're getting oxygen in your system, as we talked about, very similar to your healing modality. You disconnect the nervous systems, and then as I said, you invite love in your life. And that is so simple. You don't need any education, so you don't have to go to whatever a tuning seminar. You don't have to follow a guru. And this is something what I actually coined at the very beginning when I saw this power of this tool, because I was more or less my own experiment, because I knew what was good in my life, what was bad in my life, what I had bad behaviors or whatever. And so this thing showed me very quick, like a mirror, what's going on. And and along the journey, I just think it's this easiness, this ease in your life. You just integrate it. You don't have to go through all this process. And when I saw this, my idea was it's total self-empowerment. And then the first thing was like, actually my slogan is be your own guru. And with this thing, you can really do it, because you can take care about yourself.
I mean, there are so many things that you've just touched on there. I mean, we could talk for about 5 days, I think, those areas that you've talked about. But I think the overarching topic right there is that it should be easy. Healing should be easy, right? And that's what I say a lot with my clients as well. It's like, life is so difficult. Life is challenging enough. We don't need to add to that by thinking that healing ourselves needs to be difficult. But just by breathing, it's so simple and so powerful. But none of us are really, like you say, versed in it unless you've spent hours and hours doing yoga and training meditation. But it's so simple to slow the breath down, because the mind will always follow the breath. And so it makes perfect sense that if you can slow the breath, because when you're breathing through this, you take that long, slow, focused, concentrated breath, and straight away that immediately drops you in a completely different space. And I know for myself from using it, and when I use it with my clients before session, you feel it. You really feel it in the heart. You feel it on the cellular level, and you feel yourself coming out of fight or flight and into that rest and digest. And at that point, your body can really start to disconnect. And the fact that you're using it in schools and that was the result that you started to see is so needed and so necessary. I mean, when we look at the levels of stress and anxiety, especially now in the last 12 months, I think the average age for depression is something like 14 now, right?
Shocking.
It's really just shocking. And so to be able to have something that's so simple that kids can utilize, and adults, it's just essential. And the fact that I love that you call it one journey, right? This love tuner is one journey, because it's healing is a journey. And this is, again, something that I love to say. It's like constant. Healing is a journey. It's never ending. It's always ongoing, because there's so many layers of us and trauma and pain and anxiety that we have to deal with every single day, just being humans in modern day life as we are today, that it's essential that we have something to help us on that journey.
Yeah, and the journey is like, it's so interesting because everybody, and I mean, especially we on the forefront here in Southern California, even California in general, when it comes to all the spiritual movements and well-being. But what I always miss is kind of how deep people really go, because they jump on so many trends, what is out there. And I always say, no matter what you pick for yourself to maintain like a spiritual hygiene, it also discipline, and when you see this, I was an athlete when I was young, and so I know what it needs to get good at something, and all the other sports what I picked up, and it all works the same thing, and spirituality is exactly the same. So when you look into your long-term goal, then you have to focus on this. And the long-term goal cannot be interrupted with what I want in the moment. And it's basically discipline. So if you're not disciplined, whatever modality you find to heal yourself and to get more comfortable, more fun, and more pleasure in your life, it also is always related to your discipline. So when you pick up a routine, you need to really do it. Any routine can only help you if it's integrated on a cellular level. So it's not going to happen. So you have to dedicate 60 days into it, and then you have to carry on. And when people think, oh, I did this already, I went to this seminar and I followed this person and I was reading this book, this is all like quickly opening a curtain, and then the curtain closes. And if you want to have this curtain open and you invite love in your life and you want to have light in your life, then you need to keep on doing this. And you can do this in a very joyful way, because what I always was, I mean, I'm European. My parents have not been very into church and stuff like this, but obviously, as it was integrated in our school system, it was something what I never resonated with. And on the other hand, with my kids, I didn't want to be the guy that says we are like, we are little gurus and we all meditate and we're sitting together. I kept this very playful. And my biggest reward was when my kids have been like, whatever, 10, 12 years old. Suddenly I hear out of their kids' rooms that they're tuning. And then I said, oh, wow, that's exactly what I want, and this is literally what I believe in. I believe that everyone can change every second of the life. You always have a choice. And you have two sides, you have a light side, you have a dark side. And, there's no light without a shadow, and the other way around, and we have to accept this. But when I know that, for example, in a frequency like 528 hertz, darkness cannot exist, then why not join this? Why not do it for yourself and bring yourself into a higher frequency?
That's it, changing your vibration, raising your vibration so that you're moving from those lower energetic frequencies like shame, guilt, blame, all of those dark energies, and raising that consciousness, raising our awareness, because like you say, where there is light, darkness just can't exist. And just by you working on yourself, you will start to affect those in your immediate environment, like your children, like your friends and your family, because what you are, you receive, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, what we all forgot about it, and especially in our days now, fear has a very low frequency, and faith has a very high frequency, and love has a high frequency, gratitude, kindness. And you can make your choices. But if the first thing what you do in the morning, turn on the news and you watch the insanity going on, what comes up in you? Either anger, fear, whatever that you're resonating with. But at the end of the day, you can make a very conscious decision in the morning with a routine to create your own vibrational energy. And by doing this, you are swinging on a way higher level. So whatever comes during the day, what might have a lower frequency, is not attracting you. And this is what people need to understand, like this is the law of resonance. If you resonate with negativity, it will come to you. Yeah. If you do everything to be in a high frequency, then you will connect onto this frequency. And it's a simple thing. It's a really simple thing. And it starts like comforting people, and when you go into whatever a humming sound, if whatever grandmas are doing with their babies, when they carry them around, they make this humming sound. So we humans are like, yeah, we are vibrational beings. And as Tesla said more than 100 years ago, if you want to understand the universe, you have to think in frequency and vibration. And this is like the same thing is here now. So if you be careful about the frequency you send out and about the frequency you want to receive, then I think you're already halfway where you want to go.
Well, that's it. And it's looking at your emotional diet. Like you say, what are you feeding yourself on an emotional level every single day? What are you doing with regard to your spiritual hygiene every single day? And most people would sort of look at us and say, what are you talking about? You've been living in LA for too long. What do you mean spiritual hygiene? So important, every day. I mean, our physical hygiene has been through the roof in the last 12 months. Everybody's washing their hands more than ever and wearing their masks and being so physically hygienic. But with regard to spiritual, every single day, you really need to be looking after your emotional body, your spirit, your source through your hygiene. And what are we doing every single day? And to implement something like the love tuna for what's the average every day that you would say to people when they're first starting with this tool to really start to see benefit?
So normally I always tell people they should at least tune 2 to 3 times, like really consciously, like find a place what they like. It can be in a yoga studio, it can be at their home, it can be outside somewhere, and then really do conscious breathing breaks. So, and I would do it like 6 times, inhale, exhale. And most important is that you don't play it too loud. It's more about extending the exhale and then inhale, fill up your lungs. So I think 2 times a day is for sure necessary to start. And one thing what I do always is like I do my first tune in the morning before I even really wake up. And this is not like a tune where I run outside and sit down. So it's something like sometimes half asleep, I just make 1 or 2 tunes to get into this frequency. And this helps. But it takes time, because basically what you're doing is you are actually aligning your system. So you're making a clean house. You do like a house cleaning basically, and you bring stuff in order. And what people sometimes always think when they start like this journey, they think everything gonna be like, happy, flowery. So you cannot on one hand throw everything in the basement, and then when the big clean comes, you say, oh wow, I have a lot of stuff down there, a lot of trash that I have to get rid of. And breathing in general, in combination with this frequency, transforms energy. And when people think that they can cover up some stuff, this is not working, because energy will be always energy. And the only reason you can get rid of, or the only way, is to transform this energy. So, and this, when you do it on a conscious level, and when you accept that emotions comes up and pain comes up, and then when this is gone, when it's transformed, then pleasure can come into your life, happiness comes in, and then ease comes in. And I think a lot of people are always scared away from meditation or a spiritual approach to life, because it still reminds them of church. They think it's something serious, But the more you integrate laughter in your life, and you remind yourself that happiness is your birthright, then spirituality becomes a super cool tool, where you have fun and you can be, like a normal person. You don't have to become a monk. This is not what we should do. We should just have a lot of fun and just be reminded that happiness is our birthright.
And just using these kind of tools, it does that. And remembering that it's okay that things might seem dark and it might seem more challenging in the beginning, because when you're moving on a healing journey and you're moving through all of those emotions, it does sometimes get worse.
Yeah.
But remembering that that's okay, and that you have to keep going, because what is it, 21 days to change a habit, that you have to do something continuously to really start to see the benefit and to see the difference and the change. And like you say, when you're in the basement, there's no fast way to the penthouse. You've got to take the stairs, and sometimes it's slow and it's painful and it's challenging, but ultimately when you get to that space, the view and the perspective is so worth it. And it's so, like you say, it's joyful, it's blissful, and to have that sense of gratitude for the journey and for the feelings and for the emotion, I think as well, is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is why it's so important when people get more awareness to the thing. Yeah, and because you're not doing it for yourself, like as you said earlier, unifying fields can only exist when you come into the same frequency. And what we are doing right now in our society is absolutely more polarization. So we're doing the complete opposite. We are also educated, and we know already, people reading books, people going to seminars, and still in their everyday life, they still don't accomplish it, because I know it's not easy, but this is the only way. We will always run into obstacles when we still go against the human nature, and the human nature is unifying. Everything what actually separates us is just a layer, And when you go deeper into this layer, it gets worse and worse, and this is like so sad to see in our society right now that we are breaking up. And I mean, I'm not even going into blame and shame, because this is not the question we should ask each other. The question is how we can become one, and this oneness, that's all it is. And this is when people talk all is one and one is all. This is so simple, but wrap your brain around it, and then you will recognize, oh well, maybe I should be less judgmental in life. Maybe I make it through a day without judgment. And
Mm.
it's not easy because we have all these layers. We go outside and we do our meditation, and then we sit in traffic, and suddenly, whoop, the first judgment comes up. And this is what we need to overcome. And this is why the younger generation is so important for us, because we have seen it in schools, where teachers literally, where we integrated this the tuning as a mindfulness practice in schools. They told us that, listen, it's so unbelievable that suddenly kids communicate which have not been friends,
Mhm.
or the integrated kids what is handicapped, and I think this is the beauty of it. And we even have on our homepage an interview where a kid says, one day my mom was like not cool, and she was not relaxed, and I said to her, Mom, love tune. And the kid said she didn't even love tune, but she came down just by me expressing it. I mean, and this is wonderful, because kids really pick it up right away. There's no filters, there's no resentment, and we can learn from them. And I believe very much in what Dalai Lama said. If we, have all the kids meditate under the age of 8, in the next generation, there's no war. And this is really what it is, because every conflict is the end of communication. And if we connect from heart to heart, you will always have a communication.
That's so true. And we do as we're so conditioned as adults, and we're just living in our headspace, and we forget that we really need to come back to our heart. I think people forget that the heart is the first organ to be formed in the fetus. It's not the brain, it's actually the heart. And we forget
Absolutely.
that. And so, being able to connect back to heart center and coming into that space, it just changes everything. And to educate the
Yeah.
kids and the youth of today so that they become better adults as they move through. How have you found, I mean, obviously with COVID and everything, have you found that's affected, how has that affected, or how has the love tuner been so much more powerful and used during COVID?
Like for us, it was, I mean, we have been all surprised. And I was in Europe like 2 days before they locked down the borders last March. And I wasn't sure myself what's going on, but very fast in our community, stuff started to happen when people have been in lockdown. They organized their own WhatsApp groups. They had tunings over Skype, over Zoom. And I was just like a passenger. I just watched it, what's going to happen. And I was like really happy to see that people find still ways to connect, and what you just said about how powerful the heart is. I mean, when you look into heart coherence, and how strong the heart is. And so overall, I was happy to see it. I mean, obviously, I'll be more happy when this whole thing is over and we can continue. But I think it was a good break for a lot of people to really go inside. And I hope that a lot of people continue on this path, because it will be just enhancement in their future lives.
Mm.
But this hold that the entire world was kind of forced into uh, was, I think, not only negative. I think people started to reflect, to see, to connect in different ways. And when we do this in the future, I think we can really create a unifying field. So it was not all negative.
I don't think so either. I think there have been a lot of positives out of it. The way that we've had to now start connecting on Zoom means that it's more accessible to people everywhere in the world, no matter where you are. These healing modalities that we have at our fingertips have now been manipulated so that they can be just as powerful and just as effective over Zoom, because everything is energy. And so we have that ability to heal at distance. And now people can access these tools regardless of where they are and what they're going through.
Yeah. And you make a very conscious decision. When Corona hit, and you make the decision that you stay at home and make some nice cocktails till you're completely fucked up. I mean, yeah, then you in this frequency, and it will be even worse because you're doing it by yourself. You're not going out and having whatever dinner with friends and having some drinks. So you consciously go on a very low frequency. And alcohol and a lot of drugs have a low frequency. And this is like this conscious, when people understand in the future the concept of resonance, I think they will be way aware of what they really want to engage with. And I think first people need to understand what is good for them and then do it consciously. And I think this is the decision you can make every day.
And it's about choice. You choose how you want your life to look, how you want to see it moving forward. And, it's not by any means, that we put down the fact that people are struggling so more mentally and emotionally because of COVID. Like you say, some people are turning to those darker energies of drink and drugs to try and to numb and to try and cope because they don't have any other way of knowing how to deal with it. So that's exactly what the show was designed to do, is to raise awareness of different healing techniques, modalities, and tips that people can pull from to create that healing toolkit so that they can start to make that decision to change their life to affect it for the better moving forward.
Yeah. And there's also no shortcut, in the practice that you do, or, like your healing modality, you have to be designated. You cannot go in there and say, this is what I do, and I hope for a quick fix. So it takes the entire being to really shift.
Yeah, no, it really does. I mean, I said in the intro, even Deepak Chopra has endorsed the Love Tuna and said that it is such a powerful mindfulness tool that people should be using. So I think that's huge. So congratulations on that, first off.
Yeah. Now it was when we met the first time, it was interesting because he coined us. I mean, this is his slogan. I literally took it from him because back then he wrote me a letter and he said, like, thank you for joining us to make this world a happier, more sustainable and peaceful place. And this is really what it's all about, and I think obviously it's also a business like every other business. But when people that heal and people who have a positive mission align together, it just gets more powerful, and it helps the entire world. And I think being of service is literally what it should be. And I also have another good friend of mine who became a team writer. His name Nipon Mehta. I don't know if you heard about service space. So I mean, he's anyway, in my opinion, one of the best examples because he's like just a loving, giving person, and very smart. And still, like, for him, it's literally service is key. And I believe in this. And I think it's not, you don't have to be necessarily a leader of a movement or an author. You can do this every day, and people will see the small kind acts of kindnesses really changes your life. I mean, we started even it was like about 2 years ago, we started a thing, it's called Act of Kindness. And I said, we accept currency as a currency act of kindness. So you can send us the act of kindness. I mean, it needs to be a little bit more than to help someone over the street or open a door. But when we think that is sufficient, we literally accept it and we give love tunes for free. So, and people sending us small videos. And the first one was very impressive. It was a cab driver or Uber driver from Sacramento. And he was driving his neighbors to a hospital every day because the family couldn't afford it. So the guy literally squeezed into his day that he always goes to the neighbor, picks up the mom and takes her to a hospital. And I said, listen, it's beyond, and he did this for years, or he's still doing it, hopefully. And so this was for me, like, where I say kindness really improves. And this is why we accept it as a currency.
Oh, I love that. That's just so beautiful because it's true. And, I always say, you never know what somebody else is going through. We're all going through our own things, but, there's always somebody out there that's going through something far worse, and people are so quick to judge, and, you just don't know. And so, that you should really always be kind, because kindness just is crucial, love and kindness and just giving from the goodness of your heart, because you just don't know how you could change somebody's day, somebody's life, just by being kind to them. And that's just incredible that you are just, giving back through people showing so strong. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, you're kind to yourself, basically, because, it goes in circles, like energy flows, and whatever you do positive is,
That's it.
comes back.
So obviously you have this tool, it's amazing. You've been doing work with the schools, you have this foundation that you work with the veterans. So talk a little bit more about the foundation.
Yeah, so we started this foundation about 2 years ago, and before this, we have been already donating to different other foundations. But our core is basically everywhere where we can heal and release trauma with the power of the breath, and in combination with the 528 hertz frequency, we help those, whatever it is. It starts from kids, basically, because education is a very big thing for us. The next generation is important for us. And then I got introduced to a veteran, and he was, or he still is, he's a yoga teacher. He lost like a leg, he lost like half of his arm, half of his face, suicide, everything what you can imagine. And when we had the first conversation, he said to me, listen, I'm doing these yoga classes. And I said, I'm happy to support you. And out of this, we started a program where we donate love tuners to all those healing classes where veterans are involved. And I have been in two myself, and I showed those guys how to tune. And I mean, there's like young guys with bodies like Roman gladiators, and then, you know, they're in a wheelchair or whatever. I mean, really traumatic things. And often they had like suicide issues, and it was just beautiful to see those guys who have been through so much that they're still able to open their hearts. And when this happened, I mean, I was in tears myself. I could not hold back. It was so powerful. And so these are like our main things. We are very open to different stuff too, but this is the core of what we do right now. It's everything that has to do with education and with healing trauma, from suicide to veterans, etc. And we are working in the educational field with a foundation that we support. It's called the Pure Edge Foundation, or Pure Ink Foundation. And they actually go a step further than we do. They educate the educator. And I think this is powerful. This is why we did not do it ourselves. So we help this foundation, because they have everything in place. They already in a huge setup. And we already have 75,000 love tuners in the public school system, where not only the kids know how to tune, but more importantly, the educator. Because kids are so open to it, but when the person who is the teacher is not open to it, you can't do much, you know, because when they are still in an old modality, when they have stress, they go home and pop some pills, they cannot be in the right frequency. So I think this is something what we are very proud of, that is doing so well. And I talked, I had even a podcast on our homepage with the CEO of this foundation. And she said to me, every time when they tune and when they introduce it into school boards, a giggling starts, you know, because it's something people get happy. And this is all what we want, because a lot of teachers, what we don't know, have a lot of stress. And when they get, you know, like they cannot handle stress anymore, then they go to a different school district. So it's a lot of administrative stuff involved, you know, and the teachers are unhappy. And how can an unhappy person, you know, spread happiness? It's impossible. So I think this is the main focus what we are doing right now. So we have this school program, we have the veteran program, and then we are supporting the educator field.
I think that's amazing. Absolutely. And it's almost like I was thinking, you know, back in the day when I was at school, you know, every morning they used to take the register, make sure everybody was there, and then you have the morning assembly. Like, how incredible would it be that you could implement tuning as part of that morning routine in the school system? Because like you say, if the teachers and the educators are in a better headspace and a better vibrational state, it's only going to help and empower the children at the same time. And that's just phenomenal. Oh my gosh. What's your biggest wish?
Yeah, I mean, this is what all it is. You know, you just have to change some modalities, and you have to change some behaviors, and yeah, things get turned better in no time. You know, and this is not an endless journey. You know, like shift happens right away.
Yeah, it really does. What would be your biggest wish that you would like to see with regard to the love tuner, or just in general?
You know, like, I mean, we are getting commercially successful right now. So I see a lot of alleys where we are helping people. But for example, I got a text like about a week ago from my office, and they said, hey, check this out. And the lady sent us something that her boyfriend died. and they have been tuning together for years. And she said she's totally connected with him in this frequency, and all those stories. This makes me personally very happy. We had like a story from a lady that wrote us that her husband had a bad accident, and he's just sitting in front of the TV, and he's like, and not emotionally available. And she said, every time when I think about leaving my life behind, my husband walk out of the house and disappear and whatever, she tunes and it brings her back into her heart again, and this is the stuff what I'm happy when people literally understand that the journey is only on the inside. There's nothing on the outside that can help you. And this is why I love that the tool is so powerful, because when people get this, then they know, okay, there's no searching on the outside anymore. I can rely on myself. I'm my own guru. And this makes me happy. And when I see that it's spreading around the world and more people are helping us to raise the frequency. So this is literally my dream come true.
I love that. And yeah, you stop, like the name of the show, Stop Searching, Start Healing. And that's exactly what it is. You don't need to keep searching outside. You have everything inside of you. And I love this little tagline that you have, warning may cause miracles.
Exactly. So be ready for a miracle.
So, I mean, everybody needs to have these. I actually have two of them. I have one in my car, I have one in the house, and I use them regularly, and it's amazing. And they're very accessible. People can find them. We're going to put a link on the website. People can access them from the show notes. Very easy to get these tools. And, once you've got one, that's it. It's all you really need to spend time and focus and go within and really start to heal at that cellular root level. So powerful.
Thank you.
Wow, amazing. I'm so grateful that you took time to join us today. Honestly, I think it's fantastic. And I know that people listening are really going to benefit from this, even if it's just one thing that they take away. Hopefully that's going to be a love tuner, because I think it's just incredible and so needed. And, thank you again. You're so humble. And I love that you say, you're just a guy that's just facilitating this. You're just the vehicle and the vessel. And yeah, of course, but more than that, because you have this big vision, this big mission, and it's happening. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Jessica. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Right, take care.
Thank you. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed the show, and there is at least one thing that you can take away from today's episode that will help you build that sustainable healing toolkit. It would mean the absolute world to me if you would subscribe to the show, give it a 5-star review, and share this or any of the other episodes with somebody that you feel could really benefit by listening. I look forward to seeing you next time.